That's right. Get in here, everybody, on a Tuesday after Super Bowl 60. Seahawks top the Patriots. Jamie, Manti, Seth, and LeGarrette. LG, I gave you a hard time about your sunglasses. It's actually all love here. We really welcome that on GMFB. There's a specific memory that I have. Aaron Jones, Packers Aaron Jones, hosted 4 hours one time of Good Morning Football, and it was right around the time that Aaron Rodgers was trying to decide what to do with the Packers. So we're going a couple years back, right?
Okay, yeah.
And we made Aaron Jones look into his camera like 7 different times on the show and just plead with Rodgers to stay in Green Bay. And he went to the Jets the next week. So, and somehow we're going to talk Rodgers today and another decision he has to make. So as much things change, they stay the same as well. But you wear those shades as long as you want, okay?
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I don't know what we're going to make you.
I'm here with him now, so it's too late.
Yeah, exactly.
It's too late.
We've committed to the bit at this point. All right, speaking of the bit, Seth, you a big Disneyland guy?
Oh, come on. I got a 5-year-old daughter. Of course I'm a Disneyland guy. Of course.
Well, some people don't feel that way. Some people don't feel that way. We saw some Seahawks.
What? What? It's the happiest place on earth.
There's a disadvantage to your co-host knowing you so well that she can really roast you without even mentioning your name. I love Jamie Earl. You understand, bro? How hard that is?
Oh, man.
My God.
She basically talked about me without talking about me while talking about Seth. That's the whole art in itself. Yes, I am that one. Disneyland.
I bet Disneyland hits different after you won a Lombardi, doesn't it? That's what happened to the Seahawks yesterday. The Seahawks landed back in Seattle on Monday afternoon with their Super Bowl trophy in tow, second in Lombardi franchise history. Mike McDonald became the 3rd youngest head coach in NFL history to win a Super Bowl. As we take a look at this video, which happened about, 40 hours prior, with a moment with his family on the field after his Super Bowl win.
So how was your day?
Like, you can't believe it, It's so awesome.
It's surreal. You did it.
I love you.
I'm so proud of you.
We did it.
We did.
We did it.
We did.
We did it.
We did it. And you know what? We did not care.
We did not care. These junkies. What do you think, buddy? Jack, one day you're going to really like this day.
It's actually so relatable that despite that man just winning a Lombardi, he's still like, look at these kids' legs. They're so cute. Baby legs are so cute. All right, we look back at a Super Bowl winning season by the Seahawks. It was an incredible run for Seattle. Winners of the NFC West, #1 overall seed in the NFC. They hosted every single playoff game on their way to the Bay Area. Manti, do you have a memory from the Seahawks 2025 that stands out to you the most that you will remember?
Man, out of all of the moments in the season for the Seattle Seahawks, I think that the one that stands out to me the most is that overtime win against the Rams, the second time that they played the Rams in Seattle. They had those rivalry jerseys on, and then this play happens. Zach Charbonnet just casually walks over there, picks the ball up. The 2-point conversion is good. They were losing, guys, that game by 16 points in the fourth quarter, and then somebody on the Rams offensive side laughed at the defense for the Seattle Seahawks, and Ernest Jones said that was it. That was a turning point. It wasn't over then. And then Rashid Shaheed returns that punt for a touchdown, which ignited everybody over there and started that comeback. And I think the picture that kind of sums up this entire Seattle Seahawks team was A.J. Barner at the end, standing amidst the crowd, and he's just standing there like a gladiator. I had to go back to that moment because I think that was that game where we talked a lot about Sam Darnold in the first game and those interceptions that he threw. Could he overcome that? That was a game that I thought that the Seattle Seahawks played as a complete team. The defense struggled for a little bit. Fourth quarter, they clamped down. The offense, they struggled for a little bit. Fourth quarter, they came in. They came in heavy with some explosive plays, and then special teams was special. So. Out of all of the plays, Seth, I had to go to all the moments, Seth, I had to go to that one.
Well, it actually, if that's how Game 2 went for that matchup, we should have known how it was going to go for the NFC title in the playoffs. The fact that we got 3 of those matchups for Seahawks-Rams is pretty impressive. LeGarrette, I'm going to make you go next because I feel like you got a take on most memorable regular season moment.
Well, I got a couple of them. Just the fact that they played the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
They beat them. They beat them the first time. 13-3, and then they whooped them handedly, obviously, the next time. So That goes to me. You know, everybody's saying like the Rams would have been a great opponent here, but man, the Seahawks, they were great to watch all season. They went out there and they played really well against the Niners the first time, and that was a fully loaded Niners team when they beat them 13-3. And then coming back to, you know, beat them again. I think they played them 2 weeks later.
Yep.
And you know, they beat them handedly. They beat them handedly. So I mean, this right here was, you know, I'm gonna say my most memorable things about this run was them playing against the San Francisco 49ers, a team that they could have easily lost to, and then going and beating the Los Angeles Rams, another team that they could have easily lost to. Man, these guys had a tough road to get to this Super Bowl. Man, I don't think they were going to leave without it.
Yeah, I mean, they played in a very, very, very difficult division, guys.
Yep.
I mean, that division, you could have had 3 Super Bowl champions out of that division.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they dominated. They dominated the top 2 teams in that division, the 49ers and the Rams. And I think for me, I made it very difficult on the production team. I apologize because I couldn't come up with one moment. For me, it was a season of consistency for this squad. Yep. They were level throughout. A lot of teams, ups, downs, you start slow, you finish fast, or you're the Colts, you start hot, and then the wheels fall off.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Seattle Seahawks this year were the picture of consistency. They were able to stay relatively healthy throughout the season, which is great. The defense at every single turn was dominant. It did not matter. They did not take a week off. I mean, they had trouble with the Stafford Rams, but didn't everybody, right? Didn't everybody. It wasn't like anybody was stopping those guys. So they had trouble there, but they willed themselves. Manti, that game you talked about, that was a big one, I think, from a national perspective. I know KB, he's not here, but he's here in spirit, and he was singing their praises all year. Anybody who would listen would see him on this show talking about Mike McDonald, talking about the Seahawks, talking about this defense. So, KB, we love you. Seattle loves you as well, although, you know, they were harping on him yesterday wearing the jacket.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that consistency all year, that is so hard to do. You have 17 regular season games. You guys know. You know how hard it is to get up every single week and make that play, the consistency every single week. For me, we don't have an off season in WWE. So the only time we get time off is when I get a busted up wing or a busted up knee. I understand that consistency to get up and do your best work every single week, to have home field advantage throughout the playoffs, to win dominantly over and over and over and continue, especially when you're not in the spotlight, to continue to just march along and have the season they had. It was a testament to their coach and their team. I loved it. It was a
I don't know,
beautiful
Seth.
season.
It feels like you found a good way to take some time off from the WWE last year when you pulled your ultimate ruse.
You know, look, I don't know if that was time off. I was in character 24/7. All right,
That's a good point.
I was sleeping next to some crutches. Okay, so it wasn't like I was just taking a vacation. I wasn't going to Disneyland, where I'd love to be, the happiest place on
With
earth.
his child.
No, I was
Oh, my
suffering.
gosh.
All right, I was suffering for my art. That's what I was doing.
Rightfully so. We all do.
Yeah.
Oh,
Suffer
God.
for your
That
art,
was
man.
really well
That's
done.
me. Okay.
That was excellent. Speaking of the consistency, Seth, that you mentioned, I actually had to go back in the Seahawks schedule to realize the last time they even lost a game was Week 11, November 16th, and that was the 2-point loss to the Rams, that home game that we all look back at. There is speaking of being hard on the production staff, I have one, but I know I didn't tee it up on them, so I'm just going to talk about Sam Darnold for a second. November 30th. The Minnesota Vikings come to the Seattle Seahawks to play Max Brosmer, that poor soul in that game, started that game. I think he had 4 picks. I think he was sacked 5 times. The Seahawks shut out the Minnesota Vikings. And I feel like if you're on a team and if you love Sam Darnold, your quarterback, as much as Seahawks, the entire roster seemed to do, that is a moment where I feel like the entire team stood up for that guy and was like, oh, not only are we going to crush the team that lets you walk away from us, we're going to hold them scoreless. We're going to beat up on their rookie undrafted quarterback. Like that 26-0 win in Week 13, I think probably was the most memorable. Maybe not my favorite, but the most memorable. Okay?
It took a lot of guts right there.
Thank you so much.
That would not have been me if they had played Chicago. No chance.
Sometimes you just like
put that
rip
out
the
there.
Band-Aid off and you're just like, and rubbing alcohol. Okay. That was just some regular season moments from the Seahawks run up to Super Bowl 60. But now we have to look at Super Bowl 60 as the whole picture. Do you have a lasting image, Manti, from the Seahawks Super Bowl 60?
Yeah, when you think about the Super Bowl, the unfortunate part of a Super Bowl that is so one-sided is I don't think you could identify one moment where it's like, wow. You know, it wasn't like an interception ended the game. It wasn't like some block punt where it was captured in a photograph. But there was a scene of Mike McDonald when after he won the game and he's just looking at the confetti. If there was a picture that could scream 1,000 words, that was it for me. I've never seen a head coach take in the views of the confetti quite like this. He just stood there and he looked at the confetti. And I know that he's physically looking at the confetti, but I also think what's going through his mind is like the journey. You know what I mean? Of, man, this is for all the hard work. This is for all the hours, because there was a report that came out that he only spent like 30 minutes with his son because he was just so dedicated to the season. And as the confetti falls, I can imagine for Mike McDonald, it's just like, it was all worth it. All the sacrifices, not only on his behalf, but on the players. Like, this is what you played for. This is why you came. This is why you became a head coach. And so that was that moment for me at LG that I thought, like, man, that encapsulated everything.
Shout out, though, to that video of Mike McDonald and his wife, Stephanie, and their son. Like, this might be an unpopular opinion, but we're all parents at the table. Like, his son looked pretty young.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you're going to take time out of your day just to spend 30 minutes at home with your kid, like, that might be the right age to do it, because, like, he's not going to remember that.
Yeah.
Your kid.
Yeah.
Stephanie is out home grinding with their son, and congratulations to her, and that is fantastic. But, like, Coach, I see what you did there. Like, he'll remember the confetti in the video in the NFL Films moment later, but, like, he didn't know that he was happy that you were home for the 30 minutes with the mac and cheese, and that's fantastic.
He don't know.
All right? Go ahead, LeGarrette. What was your favorite moment?
My lasting memory will be the pick six, the picture of Uchenna Nwosu,
Yep.
you know, holding up his hands and just looking at the sky like, oh my gosh, we're here. You know, that's my favorite moment. You know, that's my favorite moment. You don't get a lot of touch. Defensive players don't get touchdowns in the Super Bowl. They rarely get touchdowns in the regular season. So to be able to get this play off and, you know, get that, I mean, he don't have to outrun a skilled player, that's for sure. You know, so he got there, and I mean, you know, these defensive guys don't know what to do when they score touchdowns. You know,
What you mean, OG?
He put one hand in the air.
What you mean, OG?
He didn't know if he wanted the hand in the air. He didn't know if he wanted to put his hand in the air. He did 3 celebrations at once. You know, he got in the end zone. He put his hands up. I mean, that's an amazing feeling, man. I've scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl before, so it's unmatched. I know he was really excited about that. I hope he held on to that football, because I don't know if I still. Me and Mance, I talked about this before. I never saw mine again. So we're going to get that. We're going to get it, though. That's my favorite image, though. That's amazing. I love that. That's the greatest feeling of all time.
Well, you guys went for elation, right? You went for happiness.
Come on.
Yeah. I'm gonna rain on this parade a little bit. Yeah, because there's 2 sides to every story. You know what I'm saying? And so you guys went for elation. I'm going for misery. I'm going for misery, and it actually, you know, it comes right off of your moment. It was the sack that got that. It was an interception, fumble, whatever.
Right,
I don't know if it's a strip sack.
I don't. They called it a pick, right?
Yeah.
Called it a pick.
Interception.
Did they? Yeah.
Yeah,
It was a takeaway in basketball.
So he loses the sack, right? He don't get the sack.
There is no sack.
That would have been 2
allegedly
for
it was
him.
an interception. Whatever. Drake May was in dismay after that.
Exactly. Drake May was in dismay. I mean, you could have called, that could have been his nickname.
Oh, that's
Drake.
a good one.
But just, is there any way to zoom in? Can we just zoom? Is there a possibility to zoom in on his face?
You're really asking a lot today.
I know, but just look at his face, man. His face, I mean, you can see it. His body language is, you know, but look at him. He's just getting swarmed. He's getting beat up. Witherspoon's just got his arm. I know they called it a pick six, but it's a strip sack, whatever you want to call it. It's elite defensive ball. And his face, this was him all game. This was him. I mean, you could have picked him. We saw a picture yesterday where he's getting driven into the ground on a sack, where he's making a very similar face. I mean, they were outmatched in every single facet of the game. There wasn't a highlight to be seen outside of Christian Gonzalez for the Patriots. And this was an encapsulation. There it is. That's what it is. Oh, there it is.
Yeah,
Look at his face. Oh, the pain. The
if you
misery.
didn't know what hand, which dominant hand Drake May was, you wouldn't be sure what hand that ball came out of.
Yeah,
like, just the way he is absolutely flailing.
You know, you just like
got the T-Rex. You got the T-Rex
hand. And that was the game.
Yes.
That was the game. There was another moment to me that I wanted to get into a little bit because we didn't talk about it too much yesterday, and that was the halftime show. I wanted to give a shout out to Bad Bunny.
Hey,
It was just awesome. My colleague Benito, fellow WWE superstar. I mean, you know, there was a lot of talk going into the halftime show about this and that and this and that. But at the end of the day, it was about unity. His message was about bringing people together. Love is stronger than hate. And I just thought that was so beautiful and so powerful. And it didn't matter where you come from, what your background was, what your ethnicity. Got it. Your religious background, anything. It was just about love. It was like, come as you are, be a part of this. And I thought that was beautiful. And it was a bigger kind of, that's what the Super Bowl is. That's what football is. You bring everybody together. You watch this game. You talk about it. We're talking about it. And there's just so much joy that comes from football and that comes from being together as a community, as one with different cultures. It was such a beautiful halftime show. I don't even know a single Bad Bunny song.
No, it was a good time.
I was nearly in tears by the end of it. I was nearly in tears by the end of it.
Well,
the messaging was beautiful.
We talked about it. I didn't understand 98% of what he said, but I was fully fluent and understanding of his intention, the message and the vibe. It was a production of culture, of love, of unity.
That's it.
And I thought it was absolutely fabulous. I want to go back to that picture. Show that picture that Drake made, because I think this is something.
Get into it.
This is where, like, look.
Oh, man.
See that hand? See Witherspoon's hand?
Yeah.
The Seattle Seahawks were just in a whole nother world where you don't see a lot of DBs understanding to put their hand up to strip the ball. Like, you know this, LG.
Oh, yeah.
When people that aren't used to rushing, they'll just hit the quarterback. But Witherspoon on that picture is like, I'm going to get this ball. And then to your picture, for Uchenna to have, like, you know how they do those light little training videos, green light. His reaction time to catch the ball and then run, that's why I guess you do all of those light exercises that they do in the offseason. I thought that encapsulated everything with the game of where they were mentally. The Seattle Seahawks, they were so in tune with what was going on that you had a DB stretching his hand out to cause the fumble or the tipped ball, and then you had Uchenna Nwosu catching the ball like as he's rushing and turning it into a touchdown. I thought that was amazing.
That was elite athleticism by Uchenna Nwosu. Elite athleticism, because we seen this game, we seen guys drop multiple picks this game. And one of the most impressive ones came from an outside linebacker.
I dropped one last week too.
Oh, no. You did.
Throwing out the TV, I did.
Yes, you did.
Man.
And Uchenna redeemed all of us defensive players.
Right? Exactly. Listen, if you're a fan of the league, I feel like, Seth, to put a bow on what you were saying, like, the NFL and the commissioner, they're being very intentional about their international efforts. And, like, you can't have it both ways. Like, here goes the NFL trying to get a full slate of games internationally, and there's Bad Bunny representing every single flag off the field. So it's a beautiful thing to see. Uchenna Nwosu, I said it yesterday, Uchenna and Sam Darnold co-MVPs on that USC team in their final season together. I just think that's so cool. I can't get over that. All right, the thing is, when there's only 2 teams left in the NFL season, everybody becomes available for a media opportunity, which I'm sure Kyle Shanahan loved. Did you catch the 49ers head coach on Sunday? He was a guest on the NBC Sports pregame show prior to Super Bowl 60, and he had this to say about trying to score against the Seahawks defense.
Talk about what's so hard about facing the Seahawks D.
Well, yeah, first of all, I mean, I know you guys want my expert opinion, but I haven't scored a touchdown on these guys last 2 times we played them, so I don't know how good that is, but it's a grind versus these guys.
All right, so remember, San Francisco only scored 9 total points in their last 2 games against Seattle this season. Now, again, Mansai, consider injury, consider all that Brock Purdy and that crew up against. But Super Bowl 60, Super Bowl 59, this might be a recency bias, but this is what we're working with, because thematically, the Super Bowls really reminded us of each other. Kyle mentioned this yesterday. The only true difference was that the Seahawks didn't score touchdowns the way the Eagles did last year against the Kansas City Chiefs. So buy or keep trying.
Holy shit.
The Seahawks' defensive performance was more impressive than what the Eagles did last year against the Kansas City Chiefs. Mansai, you're in a blender on this one.
Yeah, look at him. He's meditating.
So...
Want to see that full screen again?
I didn't see the stats, and it's pretty even except for a few categories. The blitz percentage, obviously Vic Fangio, rush 4. You already know that Mike McDonald was a rush 4 type of guy. He wasn't a blitzer, but the Super Bowl, knowing Drake May and how young he was, it is almost a given when a defensive mastermind sees an opportunity to really rile up a young quarterback, he's going to send some pressure. So there's no secret to me as to why that increased. But I got to say this. Both performances were extremely impressive and dominant. I have to look to the opponent. When I look at what the Eagles faced, what the Eagles had to go up against it, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I have to give the nod to the Eagles because of that, right? I remember even when the Chiefs, even when the Eagles had that big lead, there was always this thought in your head like, but the Chiefs can still come back. Pat can still be Pat. When you watch this past Super Bowl, there was never a time where we were like, yeah, I mean, the Pats could come back. No, it was just like, this game's over. It was over. But for some reason, when you talk about 15 and you talk about his dominant, I mean, just how special he is, yet the Eagles made them look just basic. I thought that said a lot about the Eagles defense, Vic Fangio, and what they did. Both teams had a pick six. Cooper DeJean had a pick six this game, and Uchenna Nwosu had a pick in this past Super Bowl. I would have to give the edge, LG, to the Eagles, and just on Super Bowl performance.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm gonna ride with you there, man. These guys, they were lights out. I mean, you know, they got two first-round guys from Georgia. You know, some of the best D linemen, you know, that you could get in the draft. They put together an amazing roster, right? Cooper DeJean, like you said, Cooper and I forget the other corner. Quinyon Mitchell. Yeah. Those guys played lights out as well.
Yep.
So you got guys out there that, you know, that had a huge impact on that Eagles Super Bowl, and they had fun doing it. You know, obviously it's a lot more fun when you're playing with a lead of that much. But you know, in this Patriots team, they played lights out on defense as well. They just didn't do enough. This Seattle defense, man, you can't say enough about them. They just put me in reminiscence of that Legion of Boom team without the hit sticks, because there's no Cam Chancellor back there, right?
Yes.
Right.
So you know, obviously, you know, the guy back there that disintegrates anybody that comes across the middle. So they didn't have that, but that's the only difference. That's the only difference I can say that they had that the Seahawks didn't have versus those other teams.
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at direct comparisons here, it's.
It's hard, bro.
I'm like, it's very difficult, but I'm like trying to find an angle to like disagree with you, Manti, and I don't think I can.
Can I help you?
I don't. Can you do it?
Can I help you?
Yeah,
because I've been thinking about this. You said Vic Fangio, and that's actually what pings me. What's more impressive, perhaps, is Mike Macdonald so early in his career to have navigated this group of talent to get them to play this way defensively. Compared to Vic Fangio, like we call him like Unk in the defensive coaching stats for a reason. Like that guy is legendary, but he's also coached probably upwards of like 1,000 players. Like his experience led him to that moment to be able to coach up that Eagles defense, talented as they may be. Mike Macdonald graduated high school in 2006, and he just won a Super Bowl coaching this Seahawks group. I think I'm going to buy on the fact that the Seahawks defensive performance was more impressive in 60 than the Eagles of 59 because of what Mike Macdonald was able to do with this group so early in his coaching career.
That's a great buy, and I appreciate it, but I'm going to tell you. I mean, because at the end of the day, it is still, you're right, Manti, it's Pat Mahomes against Drake May. And that's crazy. And when we put up those stats earlier, like you saw the blitz percentage was zero. Zero. I was looking at the Seahawks blitz percentage, which is small. That's small. I mean, that's not a lot. 13%. Not like they're bringing the house. This isn't like a Brian Flores defense where they're 40% or something like that. That's not that much. So they were getting pressure with four guys. But dude, that 0%, and the numbers are the same. The takeaways, you had to write the pick six, the sacks, all of that stuff. It's all identical. I mean, the third down percentage, and we're talking like. This is Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. These are Patrick Mahomes throwing for 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns some years. I mean, he's an elite. If there's one quarterback in the NFL, like you said, he might be able to bring it back. It's 30-0. At halftime, this game was over, and you were like, well, I don't know. Mahomes.
The only other guy that I can say that can bring you back from that kind of game was the guy that brought me back from a 28-3 game, right? Tom Brady. That's the only other guy that I'm going to believe in other than Patrick Patrick Mahomes that can bring a team out of those kind of deficits.
So I mean, Jamie, kudos to you for coming up with that one. And you're right.
That's a good job, though, Jamie.
And he's a head coach too. So Mike McDonald's got a lot going on. The fact that he was able to lock in and get that defense right. Appreciate it, but I keep trying. Get it out.
I would say
get it gone. It's Pat Mahomes versus Drake May at that point. I mean, come on.
I look at that blitz percentage a little differently because Mike McDonald's defense is actually a non-blitzing defense.
Yeah.
So if Mike McDonald had his way at his core, he would rather have a 0 there. And I think that says a lot about the Seattle Seahawks defense, is their ability to say, hey, we really don't blitz. But on Super Bowl Sunday, we're going to blitz, and we're going to do it better than anybody has ever done it. And we're going to play man coverage when we usually play zone coverage. And so I think for a defender, that says a lot about what the Seattle Seahawks were. It was like a transformer. It's like, okay, you want me to play man? I can play man. You want me to blitz? I can blitz. A lot of defenses don't do that. I mean, Vic Fangio said this is what we do. We rush 4, we cover 7. And we're going to rush 4 and cover 7 against you, and we're still going to dominate you. Whereas Mike McDonald was, I can be whatever I need to be to win this game, and I'm going to be dominant at it.
I'm actually wondering when those blitz calls came for the Seahawks, because I read this article just purely dissecting their defensive effort and how they went about it in Super Bowl 60. And a lot of it said that the blitzes came early, which allowed for the lead, and then they played back to how they normally would in their identity. But Manti, the other thing I read in this article, which is in The Athletic, if anyone has interest in, it's a full-blown deep dive on this defensive effort by Mike McDonald, is that Mike McDonald required something that's a little unusual of his defensive players this season, which is you have to know the entire play call. Sometimes defenses, guys are just like, I got my area or I got my guy. But instead, McDonald, it sounded like, expected more of the defensive players to know the whole play call. And maybe that allowed the defense to play as elite as they did.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because there are going to be situations where you're going to have a responsibility, but then your alignment is going to take you in a place where it may not be the most advantageous. You may not be the best person to do the job, but because, Jamie, you know my job, I can send you. It's like, hey, Jamie, you go, and I'll do this. There are so many defenses, on all the best defenses that I was on, everybody understood each other's responsibilities so that we could audible in certain situations. If I had to blitz the B gap, but I was all the way out by the hash, ain't no way I'm going to get to the B gap. So I could tell my other linebacker, hey, you go, I'll stay out here and I'll do this job. Therefore, we could still accomplish what we needed to accomplish while doing it in a very creative way. So I think the Seattle Seahawks, when they're able to do that, number one, it allows them to be very creative. But number two, it allows them to play fast. I go back to what Seth said yesterday. It seemed like there are 12 guys out there.
Yeah.
Why? Because everybody knew each other's jobs. And so when you know Seth is going to be here, I can play fast in my lane. I know where I am expected to be because not only this is my job, but Seth requires me and he depends on me to be there. That allows me to play fast, and that's what the Seattle Seahawks did all night.
You're watching these highlights again, and it just reminds me that I think we're going to find out more and more. Not that it would have mattered greatly, but I don't think Drake May was anywhere near 100%.
No.
That shoulder didn't look right. And Seth, you're coming off of a shoulder.
I know. And this is like my non-dominant arm. My left arm is one, and I'm going like if it was my dominant arm and you asked me to throw a football, like I don't know what the severity of the injury was. You know, it might have just been a little sprain, whatever. Clearly he was able to go, but you could tell right away in that game he was missing throws that he normally doesn't miss. This guy was the most accurate passer in the league this year, especially down the field, and he was just missing balls left and right. Even the ones that he caught, we talked about the Ramondre Stevenson touchdown the other day. Like he barely got that. And that's, it was a 5-yard dump off. You know what I'm saying? So there's definitely something was off there, and I think that affected the game. But Mike McDonald, to your point, he knew that. It wasn't like Drake May was like sneaky about it. Is it 100%? It's fine.
Yeah.
He knew that, and so ping him early and then get him gun shy, and the rest is history.
That's like any good husband or wife. You'd be like, "Are you okay?" And be like, "I'm fine." You're like, "Oh God, what's wrong? What does it mean? What does it mean?"
Communicate with me, please. I can solve it. Don't say no. I'm good. And then you get mad at me
me for responding in the way that you just answered me. Yeah. I hate it. Oh, my God.
Oh, man. Perfect.
We all been there, baby.
Mind. It's fine. I'm fine. Oh, no. Great imagery. Great imagery for the Seahawks defense.
Beautiful.
Congratulations to them and their defense. Frankly, the entire team. They are celebrating. Parade is set for tomorrow in Seattle. We'll talk about that on GMFB here for the rest of the week. But there is the sad part of the fairy tale for the Seahawks, and that is what was handed the New England Patriots and their fate for the end of the season. Their storybook ending came to an end on Sunday when they ran into a loaded dark side defense called the Seattle Seahawks. It was an incredibly challenging day, and it's one that brought up a lot of conversations about how the Patriots got themselves after they posted their most wins in a season since 2016. They have a head coach that returned their defensive identity to absolute glory in Mike Vrabel, and a second-year quarterback, Drake May, who clearly was able to handle himself on some of the biggest stages until he couldn't. Now we are post-Super Bowl loss for the New England Patriots, and we have to ask this question, Manti. Where do you stand on the Patriots moving forward?
I stand in the exact same place that I stood before the game. I knew that they were a really, really good defense. You had confidence in Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels for their experience in those big-time games. But we also understood that experience off the field doesn't equate to experience on the field. If Mike Vrabel was in the game, it's a different situation. If Josh McDaniels was in the game, it's a different situation. They weren't. You had a whole bunch of young guys that were learning in live time. And I thought that, Drake May, young. Will Campbell, young. And they'll be back, right? They'll be back. They just ran into the #1 defense in the NFL. You saw what happened when they ran into the #2 defense in Houston Texans. You saw what happened when they ran into the #3 defense in the Denver Broncos in that snowstorm. So it wasn't anything that I thought was surprising to me, Jamie. It was more so this is what I thought they were. They were a very good young team that deserved to be in that game. If they had an easy way to get to the playoffs, they didn't have an easy playoff. I mean, they played the Houston Texans, they played the Chargers, and they played the Denver Broncos just to get to the Seattle Seahawks, who had the best defense out of all of them. So they deserved to be there. It's just they ran into a juggernaut in the Seattle Seahawks. And that's the result when you have a defense like the dark side going against a very, very young offense, Seth.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult to kind of assess the season of the Patriots. Obviously, you got to consider it a success. Anytime you come in with a second-year quarterback and you're able to make it all the way to the Super Bowl, and you saw the progress Drake May made from his rookie season to this season, you love all of those things. But then you got to look at they did have the easiest schedule, regular season schedule, since 1999, I believe. All right, they lost to the Raiders in the opening week, and then they did really well after that. But the schedule was pretty easy for them going through. And then, look, you mentioned the playoff games, okay, but let's look at them individually. C.J. Stroud had a historically awful playoff game. If there was any offensive line that was worse than the Patriots, it was the Chargers, and they were Swiss cheese during that game. And then there's a Jarrett Stidham game for the Broncos. If Bo Nix is in that game, we might be talking about a totally different Super Bowl here. So I'm not saying it felt like all the breaks kind of went their way this season. The big teams in the AFC struggled. Obviously, the Chiefs struggled. The Ravens struggled. Joey B in Cincinnati, he was hurt. Buffalo was there, but couldn't quite get the job done. It felt like everything just sort of fell into place for them this season. But on the other side of that, there is a ton of potential here. The defense is great. They're well coached. Drake May was awesome this season. They're going to be ballers, I think, for a long time to come. Will they get back to the Super Bowl anytime soon?
Really hard.
It's really hard to do. It's really hard to do, and I do not expect the level of competition in the AFC or on the schedule to be the same for what it was for this team. So I know you might be partial, LG, but I don't know, man. It's going to be an interesting see. I'm very curious to see what they look like next year.
I mean, I'm buying it, man. I feel like they have a really young football team. Like you said, man, this is Drake's second year in the league. Made a major jump, huge progress. I mean, I'm buying it. I think these guys are really young. You got one of the best corners, if not the best corner in the NFL. A first-round draft pick in the left tackle, which I've seen multiple reports of him saying, everyone's saying like, oh, he's late or he's this, that, and the other. Where you get somebody like like Jim Schwartz, or no, not Jim Schwartz, but Jeff Schwartz, and those guys that have played left tackle, they're breaking down his film and they're saying like he's in good position. He's just got late hands. So you know what that is, manti right? Whenever you're blitzing, and you got a lineman that's setting, and if his hands are late, you're going to knock him down or you're going to push him up or things like that. So a little tweaks here and there for their offense that's going to make them a lot better next year. The defense is going to be still the defense, and they're going to still play lights out. I think these guys are going to be tough to deal with next year as well, because they're going to be a lot better.
I think one thing that people have to realize, and what I'm saying is people, I hope that the Patriots really nail with Drake May is what's going on up here. The young man got hit, and he got hit a lot in the playoffs. And my mind immediately goes to C.J. Stroud. He had an amazing rookie year. And then the second year, he starts to get hit, and he gets hit a lot. And then we're starting to see the result of that. And even Patrick Mahomes, like as great as Pat was and is, not was, but as great as Pat is, last year getting hit as much as he got hit, there were a lot of reports, and you watched him this year. Pat wasn't going to hold the ball. Pat was releasing the ball, and sometimes a lot earlier than he should have released the ball. His guys weren't in the areas that they're supposed to be, or even sometimes in games, Pat would come off certain players, certain receivers too early. Why? And I can only equate this to he was used to getting hit so much that he did not want to hold the ball longer than he needed to.
Yeah.
Drake May is a young quarterback. He is a gifted quarterback. Being hit as many times as he got hit against all the defense that he has, there's some PTSD there where there's an expectation that I'm always going to get hit now. Unless you rewire that for the young man going into next year, I think that's the number one thing for the Patriots that they need to do with the young quarterback. Help him between the ears. Help him to calm whatever happened this year, to help him acknowledge it, erase it, and then move on. If you just immediately move on to the next year, I think he's always going to have that voice in the back of his head like, man, I'm going to get hit again.
You know what? That's a great point. But I think there is another example, a recent example on the other side of that. Caleb Williams in his rookie season got hit a lot, sacked at a record pace, and they made protecting him, the Chicago Bears made protecting him a priority. They went out, redid their offensive line. Ben Johnson gets in there. I mean, the sacks got cut in half, in a third almost, and you saw what he was able to become. And so it is possible. It's not like you take this guy and you hit him and you write him off and he's gone. It is definitely possible to take a young quarterback and rewire him, like you said. You deprogram. He doesn't have to get that ball out fast. And the nice thing about young guys, they forget quick. They got quick memory.
If there's anyone that can do it, if there's anyone that can do it, I'm going with Josh Daniels, Daniels and Vrabes. I'm going with Mike Vrabes, but I'm going with those guys. If anybody can get this guy out of his head and from being discouraged and having the twinkle toes in the pocket and stuff like that, it's those two guys.
The thing that I hate most about a team that right now in this era that loses a Super Bowl is just how high you feel like you got and how everybody starts back at the beginning. Somebody who didn't make the playoffs, like they've been chomping at the bit since week 18 came to completion, and they realize that like reset starts week 1 next year. The Patriots now have to start fully over. To me, it becomes an AFC East question, actually, and just all the turnover that's happened within this division. For example, you have a new head coach in Buffalo, and Josh Allen, I'm sure, feels the window that he is trying to succeed within. You got a new head coach with the Miami Dolphins, defensive coordinator formerly of the Green Bay Packers, and Jeff Hafley. And he's down there giving press conferences that we're going to be tough. We're going to hit people. The Dolphins are going to look different. And then if Aaron Glenn wants to do anything that he can do with the Jets, they're going to become an Aaron Glenn type defense. So the Patriots better look out, essentially, because you've got a lot of teams who are trying to fight for the top of the division, and Josh Allen specifically comes to mind. Like, did the Patriots capitalize on the Bills having a down year, and now are we just going to see a resurgence of a Bills team, or is this the beginning of a new era for the New England Patriots?
Well, it's just funny that you look at the AFC East and you look at the background of the head coaches. 3 of them are defensive coaches.
Right.
One is offense with Joe Brady. And so when you think of the number one goal out of a team is to win your division. So there are hires, there are draft picks, there are trades that are made. to beat Josh Allen.
Yes.
Right? There are trades and acquisitions that are made to beat the Miami Dolphins, whoever's the quarterback going to be. It's so funny that you start to see the shift, right? Which once was a high-powered offense. You had Mike McDaniels over there doing all of the things that he was doing with the Miami Dolphins. Now has an aggressive defensive approach. And I got to assume that you watched the past 2 Super Bowls. You watch the caliber of defenses.
Yeah.
And you think to yourself, like, man, if I just have a great defense, it gives me time to figure things out on the offensive side of the ball. Because, LG, you know this, you either got one swing at it if you're going to go for a quarterback or not. If you make the wrong decision at quarterback, that's going to set you back a whole bunch of years. But if you have a solid foundation as a defense, you have the equity to be like, okay, cool. Like, if we don't get it right now, we're going to be okay. We can figure things out as long as we have a defense that can not only keep us in the game, but in most cases in the past 2 Super Bowls, win us the game. So that was the biggest transition for me, Seth, as I look at this division that was once heavy on the offense, now has transitioned to a defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, that's the NFL, I feel like, right now. I feel like we're I don't know if we're out of the age of the golden quarterback, but these guys aren't throwing for 50 touchdowns anymore. The Peyton Manning, the Tom Brady, the Patrick Mahomes. I mean, we're still getting good numbers in the 40s. Like, Matt Stafford had a great season this year, but you look at it, Drew Brees, Hall of Famer, you look at it compared to the quarterback era where they were really spreading everything out, and the rules were getting changed kind of quickly and the game was moving faster. I really feel like the defense is catching up.
Yeah.
You look at the last 2 Super Bowl champions and you look at the hires for these head coaches, and it's a lot of defensive coaches, of defensive. And the defenses, the statement games, the playoff games, the Super Bowls, it's coming down to these defenses. So offense, we love it. It's fantastic. It makes for exciting games. And it's so cliched. Defense wins championships.
Yep, it does.
Somebody mentioned his name once already this segment, and I'll bring it up again. And it's the fact that when Joe Burrow in his second year went in to play a Super Bowl against the Rams, and he almost had it, he was a play away from being able to clinch out for the Bengals. And look at what has become of Cincinnati since that moment. Right. They struggle with the offensive line. They struggle in building up a defense. They've invested clearly in the wide receivers, but that doesn't matter when your quarterback doesn't have time to get them the ball. It does remind me a little bit of what Drake May had to deal with, frankly, in the back half of the season. You're kind of like, Patriots are winning, but who do they have at wide receiver that is like this star? How does Drake May have all this time? And it just it just reminds me time and time again how challenging it is to get there. Joe Burrow, Brock Purdy, recency of quarterbacks who have gotten there and can't get back. And it also impresses you that Jalen Hurts was able to get there, lose one, and return. Right. It's all about the makeup of the team as a whole.
Yeah, it's all about the makeup of the team as a whole. And I was talking to my brother-in-law about, he's a big Seattle Seahawks fan, and he was just like, man, how do you defend something like the Seattle Seahawks if you're Drake May? And this is where I got a little flashback to the past of the quarterbacks that I used to go up against. Those quarterbacks, the Phillip Rivers, the Drew Breeses, the Peyton Mannings, the only way that you can defeat those dominant defenses is identifying it pre-snap. There was a greatness about, and you know this playing with Tom, is the only way that you could defend a blitz is you know where it's coming from. There are so many times you watch a young Drake May in there and he didn't know what what was what. Like he didn't know, are they coming from here? The old school quarterbacks, because they were just so cerebral and because they had just like this plethora of knowledge there, they could stand at the line of scrimmage and be like, LeGarrette, you're not coming, set this coming. We're going to move this line this way and we're going to run this.
Correct.
The quarterbacks nowadays, I got 2 plays in my ear. I'm going to come to the line of scrimmage with one, and if I don't like what I see, I'm going to audible to the next one. The ones back in the day was I'm going to come to the line of scrimmage, analyze the defense. Okay, based on what they're giving me, this is what we're going to run.
Wow.
And that's the only way that you could combat a defense like the Seattle Seahawks is you have to combat them pre-snap.
Man, is that why? Do you think that's why Matt Stafford had the success he had?
That's why. That is a great example. Matt Stafford could come to the line of scrimmage, look at where the safeties were, look where the DBs were, and say, I'm going to go to Puka Nacua. I already know where I'm going to go to Puka Nacua on this play. We saw after the penalty, where it's now first down. The very next play, he goes to Puka Nacua on the bomb touchdown. Matt Stafford is one of those quarterbacks that can come to the line of scrimmage, analyze everything, no matter what defense you may think you're showing him, he's seen so much in his career that he's like, I already know what you're doing. I'm going to get my line in a position to block you, and I'm going to get my weapons in a position to take advantage of whatever coverage that you're in. That's the only way, quarterbacks, to defeat one of these defenses. So, again, going back to how we started this conversation, it's no surprise to me that teams and franchises are now saying, hey, because I know that there's a little crutch that these quarterbacks have nowadays, I'm going to focus on the defense. I'm going to put that defense in front of them, and based off of that, then we could figure everything out with the quarterback.
Garrett, I was going to ask you, what advice or what message do you want to hear in a locker room after losing a Super Bowl? But LG, you went 3-0 in Super Bowls, didn't you? Look at that smile. You don't even know what message you want to hear.
That's nice.
I know what message would be said if he lost a game at any point. You know, when it comes to Bill, some things that can't be said on air.
Sure.
But he is, he's even killed. What you got, what the media gets after a loss is what we get. He's pretty, cold, cold-eyed, and he's gonna magnify every single mistake you have, regardless of what the score was or any things like that. Like, man, Todd, that was a great breakdown of how you said the cerebral thing with the quarterbacks. Like, that was still kind of on my mind when you asked me that, Jamie, because they only have like 15 seconds to do that.
Right.
Like, all of that stuff that you were talking about, they only got like 10 to 15 seconds to diagnose and get the snap off before you get to delay a game, or a false start, a lineman gets uneasy, or any of those things. But I mean, man, to what you were saying, man, these guys have to be extremely smart. They have to be really, really smart. And you got guys like Josh McDaniels to get a guy like Drake May to the level of I'm not going to say the level of Tom Brady, but the level of play to where it can
He knows how to do
it. Correct. They're young and they're hungry, man. I believe that, and when I was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, there was a saying around that Raheem used to say, we're young and hungry, and we got hats and we got shirts that said "Youngry" on them. And I feel like that goes right into what the Patriots are doing, man. These guys are young. They're going to be really, really good in the future. So I think they're on the right track.
We appreciate you cleaning up that Belichick post-game moment for us. Keep it clean on TV, right?
Keep it clean on TV.
We can envision what it was probably like.